In my 6 years of teaching beginner artists how to draw, I found that there are certain strategies that students can use to increase the amount of enjoyment that they get out of the drawing practice to the point where they get addicted and draw way, way more. This is one of the main strategies to increase the amount of drawing that you do, is just finding enjoyment in it. So here are a couple of strategies that might help you. Strategy number one is to lower the bar for what you consider a good drawing session. If you think that a 5-minute drawing session isn't legitimate enough because you're not like deeply focused and making tons of improvement, then I do recommend that you just lower that bar, because you're putting a lot of pressure on the drawing practice, and you're probably doing that because you want to improve. And the desire to improve is fine, but if you don't give yourself enough freedom to explore and enjoy small drawing sessions, then it becomes very difficult to enjoy the practice overall. So if you are one of these people, grab a piece of paper right now while you're listening to this and just draw along. Just doodle on a piece of paper, maybe a post-it note. This is something I recommend for a lot of students. If you are a beginner artist who's trying to develop an art habit that feels fun and easy, just put a bunch of post-it notes and pens in locations that you hang out regularly. So maybe by your coffee maker or by your TV. Just have these post-it notes everywhere so that you can just make quick doodles, and that can be a drawing session. So if you lower that bar low enough, you can give yourself a pat on the back every time you do these small doodles, and you can explore and do whatever it feels fun for you. And over time, your joy and love for drawing will increase. Strategy number two is to write out your expectations of what you consider good art and then question it. For a lot of artists, they have this cloud of expectations about what master art looks like, and then they judge themselves based on this cloud of expectations without actually being intentional about what those expectations are. What you will find is that once you start writing out those expectations, you ask yourself the question, what do I expect from myself? What does good art look like? You might find that a lot of these expectations don't actually make sense, but you use them to judge yourself because you have this critic, this inner critic that's constantly judging you, and it's not helpful for the art practice. It will rob you of the joy of the practice, especially if you just let it be unintentional and just let it be a cloud. So what I recommend you do, just write it out. Ask yourself if you would put those expectations on a friend or someone you love, because that way you get to reframe these expectations. Are they realistic? Do you actually want to hold on to them? And many of you might find that you want to hold on to some of the expectations, but you want to let go of others. Instead of having all of the expectations that you should be good at everything, you might realize that, no, I actually only care about being good at this one very specific aspect of being an artist. So I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to let go of all the other judgments, and then I'm just going to focus on this one thing, and that will help you lean into who you are and the things that you actually care about. This will clarify what you value in your art practice. And I think this is one of the most important things that you can do in your art practice. This is why in the Inner Artist course, I start off with this, because one, it fights against perfectionism, which is I think is one of the biggest issues in the art community. It's just like having these high expectations, expecting things to be perfect. It fights against that because it really rewires those expectations. And number two, it makes it so much easier to have fun and explore new things because you don't have these expectations that are constantly fighting you. So if you are interested in that, check out the Inner Artist course that's included in the Absolutely Everything bundle, and also check out the 54 free drawing exercises that are linked below. Strategy number three is one of my favorites, and that's to introduce more boredom into your life. If you are someone who's constantly consuming movies, TV shows, reels online, and you're always consuming so much content and there's no boredom in your life, it's very hard to tap into how enjoyable art can actually be, because your mind is flooded with all of these inputs, and it never lets your mind settle down so that you can see that flow of creative energy that's underlying your human experience. If you are someone who's a creative person, you actually need quite a bit of boredom for those voices to speak. The muse is always whispering. Almost all of the ideas, almost all of your creative energy comes from a whisper. It might spike in moments where you have massive motivation, but I don't think that that's a very common experience unless you have a lot of boredom in your life. Yes, you might have a spike of inspiration once every couple of months, but that you can't rely on that for a consistent art practice. So what I recommend you do is just introduce tons of boredom, which can include long walks in silence. And that can feel enjoyable, but it's not high energy, right? It's almost like boredom, and all that like relaxing into the stillness will allow you to enjoy your art practice more, because you'll notice that these small experiences can actually be really wonderful, because you'll be able to sink into them much more easily than if you're constantly consuming content. This is actually something that I'm working on right now. I struggle with Instagram and like consuming content, so I'm like trying very, very hard to reduce that, try to introduce more boredom into my life, because this is something that I've been falling off as well on. So join me in this, introduce more boredom into your life. Strategy number 4 is to lean into what comes naturally. Instead of trying so hard to be perfect, instead of trying to be someone that you're not, just focus on what actually comes natural to you and just try to lean into that for a while. Instead of always focusing on your weaknesses and trying to improve, just lean into what actually comes naturally and see where that takes you. Because what you might find is that the thing that comes naturally for you is very difficult for other people, so they will value it. One thing that I've experienced in my life is that I like drawing cute things, and drawing cute things is super easy. To me, it just like comes naturally. So I undervalue that skill. But then when I'm around other artists who don't have that skill naturally, they think it's tremendously beautiful. They think it's tremendously impressive because it doesn't come naturally to them. But I undervalue it because my assumption is if it's easy for me, it's easy for everyone else. And that's a huge mistake. Sometimes your creative voice feels the most natural, it feels the most easy, and you might undervalue it because you expect things to be hard. So remove the expectation that hard things are valuable. Not everything that's hard is valuable, right? You can do something that is difficult and it's not necessarily valuable. And you want to treat yourself that way as well, where you recognize that the things that come naturally for you might be the most valuable things that you have to offer. Think about this in terms of your friendships, for example. A lot of the times, the things that you value in your friends are the things that come naturally to them. It's like their personality, it's who they are. So you want to treat your creative voice the exact same way, where you let your natural voice just speak for a moment. Don't always focus on weaknesses. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to practice your craft. This doesn't mean that you don't want to do difficult things, but you also want to lean into things that come naturally. You want to dance between the two, right? So if you are someone who's doing my 54 free drawing exercises, one thing that I mentioned is to make the exercises fun by doing them in ways that are exciting to you. So you want to lean into things that come naturally to you and then implement them into challenging things. But if you are someone who has lost the fun of drawing, if you've been struggling to get back into the love of drawing, to put that aside, put the improvement aside, and let's just focus on what comes naturally. Spend a week where you just detox from all the inputs, stop looking at art that you love for a moment, just for a week. And just see what comes out of you naturally. What kind of lines do you make? What kind of shapes do you like? What kind of faces do you draw when you're not looking at a reference? Explore those things, because I think there's so much enjoyment in that, because you just allow yourself the room to experiment and be yourself. So that is strategy number 4. Strategy number 5 is to remember that you are complete as you are. No amount of improving your drawing skills is going to make you more complete. Your intrinsic worth as a human being does not change, which means that if you are a beginner artist who's doing very bad drawings, in your eyes, the drawings are horrible, they're not great, they don't deserve to exist. Even if they're horrible, that doesn't change your intrinsic worth as a human being. You are complete as you are. And this is a very important reminder, especially for those students who feel like they need to chase this high-end art, like, oh, I need to become like Kim Jong-il or whatever master artist that you look up to before I'm valuable as a human being. I want all this external validation, so I'm going to chase after this. The more you chase these external validators, I think the less fun you'll have in the drawing practice, because you'll narrow your scope in a way that isn't true to who you are as a person. So when you remind yourself over and over again that you will not become more complete by becoming a better artist, you are complete as you are, your intrinsic worth does not change. And that's what will make drawing so fun, because then you can just explore and not worry so much about the outcome. Strategy number 6 is to lean into deep focus. And my number 1 way of doing this is using timers. I have my handy little kitchen timer. You don't need a kitchen timer to do this. You can use your timer on your phone. But in that 20-minute drawing session or 5-minute drawing session, I put away my phone and I'm trying to focus as deeply as possible. These drawing sessions do not have to be long, like I mentioned earlier, but you want to be intentional about those minutes and be as deeply focused as you can be. Because what I've found is that you derive so much more enjoyment out of drawing if you're able to focus deeply. This is a skill that you need to practice over time, and you probably already know which distractions that you personally need to work on. Where can you put aside your distractions for a moment and just focus on drawing for a short period of time and then reintroduce those distractions? If you are someone who struggles with Reels or Instagram, maybe you just set specific times in the day where you're on Instagram, and then you have specific times where you're allowed to draw. You might want to play around with that. You got to figure out what works for you, but you probably already know what to do here. Try to focus on your drawing practice when you have the room for it. Strategy number 7 is reminding yourself over and over again that you just have to do your personal best. If the best that you can do is a 5-minute drawing session today or per month, if a 5-minute drawing session per month is all you can handle, then that is enough. Instead of trying to judge yourself over and over again for not being a grandmaster or not having the room in your life to like draw for hours a day, then that's completely fine. If you are in a place where you're not enjoying your art practice, you have challenging feelings around your art practice, that is okay. Just do the best that you can do. And if you only enjoy your drawing practice only a couple of times per month, that is also fine. I just want you to remind yourself of that. And it's something that I'm trying to keep in mind for myself. Over the past 2 weeks, you might have noticed that I haven't been posting as many videos because I've been struggling quite a bit. Even making this video has been quite the challenge, but I keep trying to remind myself that even though I'm not very good at this just yet, I'm not trying to practice this skill, that I just need to do my best. I need to stop comparing myself to other YouTubers who are better at this than I am. And it's totally fine that if I fail over and over again, that's completely fine, because I just need to focus on doing what I can do and just do my best. As long as I'm trying, that's all that really matters. And that is what I want you to keep in mind. If you are someone who's lost touch with your love for drawing, try not to judge yourself harshly for that. That is an experience that a lot of artists have. That might be why you're watching this video, because you're hoping to find that connection again. Remember that that's a very natural thing that a lot of artists go through. The reason why I start with all these like writing exercises in terms of your expectations is because it's very normal for artists to go through these challenges. So just remind yourself, that's completely fine. It's completely natural. Something that a lot of artists struggle with. So be forgiving with yourself. Give yourself that room and remind yourself, as long as I'm trying, that's totally fine. And remember that your trying and someone else's trying can look very different, and you do not need to spend time judging that. Just do your best, and that's all we can ask of you. If you want more of my companionship in your creative journey, check out the Absolutely Everything bundle that's linked below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.